My name is Sandi Mero, and I work in the Advancement and Alumni Office here at KGI. Today on the podcast, I'm thrilled to be chatting with Thomas Tredennick, who is a senior manager at Kite Pharma and also owns the Verne Brewing Company, which has been the site of many student and alumni events. He is an experienced leader with a demonstrated track record in engineering, operations, marketing, and market research. Thomas earned a bachelor's at Cornell in 2008 and then completed KGI's Master of Business and Science program in 2010. Thank you for joining us today, Thomas. Can you start off by introducing yourself and the position you currently hold?
Yeah, so I'm Thomas Tredennick. I'm KGI Masters of Bioscience class of 2010, and I currently work for Kite Pharma in our Chemistry, Manufacturing, and Controls, or our CMC, Program Management Group.
To backtrack a bit to your time in Claremont, how did you first become interested in coming to KGI?
In undergrad, I studied bioengineering and just really had a love for the science, but was also intrigued by the business part, which I think aligns very well with the KGI mission, but I obviously didn't know about KGI at the time. And it turns out that one of my roommates, his dad was actually good, or at least knew Bob Curry, and it was through that connection that I was introduced to the school. And my roommate, he was a little bit more of a hard science guy, so he went and checked out KGI, and he came back and he was like, Thomas, the place wasn't really for me, but I think it'd be a great fit for you, and the rest is history.
During the time you spent at KGI, what course had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, thinking about this one, I'm going to say it was the class that was taught by Hank Riggs. I think it was finance, but that's not important because he taught us how to tie a bow tie at the end of the class. And I can't tell you how many times I've been going to some kind of an event and thinking to myself, man, I wish I had paid attention when he taught us how to tie a bow tie, because there's times where you might be doing an experiment or something and you don't think, oh man, what buffer was I supposed to use? But my gosh, knowing how to tie a bow tie would have really come in handy at a lot of times. So
that's a great story. Out of the KGI faculty members, who served as a key mentor for you?
Well, I was at KGI. I had a pretty close relationship with Matt Krogan. I was taking a lot of bioprocessing classes, and he was my professor for quite a few different opportunities or different classes, and through that he really helped on multiple different levels. There was the academic piece, but he also, as we would do intramural sports, and he would come play intramural sports with us, which I thought was a lot of fun. To get to interact with our professors on outside of class. And he also started me on the beer journey. We brewed some beer in our bioprocessing class, and lo and behold, a few years later, I ended up buying a brewery over there near Claremont, actually. So I can attribute that, starting that fire, to Matt Krogan.
Obviously, that's one of the skills you gained at KGI, but what other skills do you use most frequently in your role today?
Yeah, so the stuff that keeps the lights on is the work that I did at KGI, and more of the science and my work here at Kite Pharma. And what I can attribute to a lot of the things that I did at KGI is really that balance between business and science. I can be in a meeting with a lot of stakeholders from varying backgrounds and speak both of their languages. And that gives a lot of credibility when we're tackling problems and trying to solve things, and just really being able to understand business implications to science problems, or science implications to business problems. And thinking critically about that has been very valuable, and really helps to, I think, differentiate my responses and my work that I do here.
How has networking been critical in your career journey?
Networking for me was from a KGI perspective was always a very interesting, an interesting piece, because when I started at Keck in 2008, the school was still relatively new. So a lot of what we relied on were the board of advisors and their connections, and even just the maybe 3 or 4 classes. I think there might have been more than that before us. And now, as I've grown throughout my career, KGI has put more high performing alumni out into the business world. It's almost every other week that I'll see a new hire announcement come out through the Kite email, and KGI is in their pedigree. So, I still keep in touch with a lot of my colleagues from KGI, and to me, it's been extremely valuable to have that network and then leverage it, personally from a business perspective, even if I just have questions about another company or something like that. I know that I've got a pretty broad and valuable group of folks scattered throughout biotech.
I did also want to ask you regarding the co-owner of the Verne Brewing Company. Can you share some information on who that is and how you met?
Yeah. So Verne Brewing, there's kind of a spattering of I think it's probably 8 of us, where we put in a little bit of, all of us put in a little bit, and 2 of us that do a lot of the day-to-day work is myself and Brent Thompson, who he also graduated my year from KGI in 2010. So although we aren't out there solving all of biotech's greatest challenges just yet, we've started our first venture here, which is a brewery, and I guess you could probably say we're solving some pretty real challenges of making sure that thirsty people's needs are met. So, it was a great. I think another great thing with KGI, right, is you meet somebody, you form a social relationship, a personal relationship, and then you both have a strong background and a strong entrepreneurial desire, and then it's an easy, going back to your previous question about networks, it's an easy pool to grab from and find somebody similarly passionate and similarly talented to start a business with.
With closing, I wanted to ask you one more question. What advice would you give to a smart, driven graduate student about to enter your industry? And what advice should they ignore?
Well, I like the ignore question. I'm going to have to think about that while I'm riffing on the first one. So the advice that I would give is, I personally benefited from entering into a rotational program, and by no means am I saying that everybody has to be in a rotational program, but the spirit of, staying hungry, learning a lot, take on new roles, take on new projects, and really, if you think what you really want to do, go after that. Be passionate about it. But as new opportunities and new challenges come up, don't be afraid to work a little bit harder and bring on some extra things, because you never know. You might find something you love, or you might find something that you hate, and you can steer away from that, further on in your career. All right, and now advice to ignore. That's a good one. Advice to ignore. Let me think. I've heard a lot of, learn how to say no, and you got to say no to a lot of things. And I totally agree with that people have limited bandwidth, and you do have to say no. But if it comes down to it and it's a hard decision, I'd say yes. Because more often than not, that yes is going to open up a door that you may not otherwise have gone to. And if you're teetering on whether or not you should do something, my my advice would be, hey, jump on it, go after it. So
that's perfect. Well, great. We really appreciate all you do for KGI, and you're definitely giving back of your time, talent, and treasure. I think that's all for today, and I look forward to seeing you again at the Verne Brewing Company on March 6th for the Alumni Student Mixer, and thank you very much.
You bet. We'll see you on the 6th.